Alright, Maras, today we're ranking every home atmosphere in the Premier League. A very, very controversial subject. I don't think anyone ever likes where the teams get put in this, but it's one that everyone likes to talk about. And I'm doing this as someone, by the way, who has actually been to these stadiums, experienced these atmospheres. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, where people make videos like this, talking about stuff like this, and they've never went near the ground in their life. They're based not off what they've seen on the telly, or what they've heard. That is not what I'm going to be doing here. I've been to 16 out of the 20 home grounds in the Premier League throughout my time following Sunderland home and away, and I'm going to rank them all based off the atmosphere that I experienced. And obviously a disclaimer, some of these I will have caught on a good day, will have caught on a bad day, etc. But I will let you know pretty much what scorelines are saying when talking about the clubs. And I'll start off by getting the ones that I haven't been to out the way. I haven't been to Bournemouth, I haven't been to Hull, I haven't been to Ipswich, and I haven't been to Newcastle. I'll not be ranking Bournemouth, Ipswich and Hull because I know absolutely nothing about them, but obviously living in the North East, Newcastle being our main rival, I'm more than aware of how their atmosphere goes, etc. So I'm obviously going to discuss them. But let's get straight into it. So I've got Bournemouth, Ipswich and Hull just at the bottom. I'm not ranking them. Sorry, any fans of them clubs. There's nothing I can really do about it. I will be going to them this season. I'm pretty much certain. Well, I'm definitely going to Ipswich. Let's start off with 17th place. The worst atmosphere that I've actually experienced as an away fan in the Premier League is Fulham. I don't think it's a shock to anyone that I've got Fulham here. I think it's pretty plain and simple. They have a neutral stand. It really felt like a lot of the people in that crowd were sort of just people travelling to London, tourists who were like, oh, there's a Premier League game on, shall we go see it? Yeah, and that's what happened. And it was a pretty boring game. We lost 1-0. It was rainy, albeit that might have been a bad day. But then I also saw them when we played them in the FA Cup a few seasons ago when Chris Rigg burst onto the scene, and the atmosphere was also awful in that game. Fulham, rock bottom for me. Don't think there's much else to say. Next up, we have Brighton. We did go there and get a 0-0 this season, so in terms of boring games, this was one of them, but there's honestly just nothing to report. The reason that I've got Fulham lower than this is because they have that neutral stand. Brighton don't, but it's probably just as quiet, just as dull, and there's just nothing really going on. I haven't got much more to say about that with Brighton, but I think as a new sort of more modern football club, that is the way that it goes, and that carries us on perfectly into 15th place, where I do have Brentford, who do have that sort of family vibe going on that everyone talks about, and I really did experience that when I went to the G-Tech. It's one of the worst away days I've ever done. I was sick in a tube station and we lost 3-0 on a cold Tuesday night or something. It was absolutely awful, but the atmosphere was pretty poor despite them winning 3-0, which I think the fact that they won 3-0 as well on the brink of getting into Europe, I think it was just so disappointing to see, but also it's kind of what I expected from Brentford. Moving up to 14th, this is where the sort of big first shock of the list is. I've got Manchester United. I've got the biggest club in English football history, having the 14th best home atmosphere in the Premier League, and I absolutely stand by everything I see here. This was, I believe, our first Big Six away day in the Premier League this season. We lost 2-0, which under Amorim is a massive result, especially when we were doing so well at the start of the season. And it honestly felt like there wasn't a team playing around Manchester that day. There was absolutely no build-up atmosphere, nothing. They won 2-0. There was absolutely no chanting. There was nothing in the crowd. There was barely even any reactions to goals and stuff. The loudest sort of noise I heard all game was Kobbie Mainoo getting subbed on, which I suppose just goes to show the state of Manchester United at the time. But still getting a 2-0 win over a club who were doing well when you need to be getting up results and then it being an awful atmosphere, there's just absolutely no excuse. But the worst thing about this for me was when we left the ground, like, there wasn't even a single bit of excitement or joy from the Manchester United fans. They were all just walking out, talking amongst their mates, and it was just nothing. And I obviously understand that sort of expectations are relative and it might not have been as big for them, but it doesn't matter. If you want to be high up in an atmosphere list or have a good atmosphere, you need to have a good atmosphere. I'm not here for excuses. I don't want to listen that you're expecting to win all these games. I couldn't care less. The atmosphere at Old Trafford was absolutely awful, and it was extremely disappointing. Moving on to 13th place, we have their rivals Manchester City. I think they were louder than Man United, definitely, but the reason they're this low is there was just so many empty seats. We lost this game 3-0, absolutely destroyed us. Ryan Cherky with the best individual performance that I've ever seen live in the flesh. It was absolutely sensational. Our away end was absolutely brilliant. It was the game before our derby day, so the atmosphere was bouncing, even though we lost 3-0. There was a bit of noise here and there, more than the teams below them, but because of the lack of people who were actually in the stadium, it's got to go this low. And the fact that they're doing sort of the increase in the capacity worries me for the further atmosphere of the Etihad. Obviously, it will get bouncing until it gets bouncing. And Man City are a club I have a lot of respect for. I'm not one of these people who say empty had and all that. Talk about the fact they have no history. I know all that's lies, but I did say a lot of empty seats. The atmosphere was okay. In 12th place, I've got Crystal Palace. This is a fan base that has this sort of rep as being this kind of underground great atmosphere, having ultras and all that. I did not experience that one bit at Selhurst Park this season. This was I believe, our first away game against a team that weren't in the Championship with us last season. We drew 0-0. It was Robin Roofs, was one of the most incredible goalkeeping performances I've ever seen. And it was an all-round, just decent atmosphere at absolutely most. But that ultra end that they're meant to have, I don't know what they're called. I forgot what they're called. It was just non-existent. There was genuinely it looked like there was about 50 of them, and they made no noise. There was a bit of drumming, a bit of chanting here and there, but it was all round quite a quiet ground. And again, I understand it was 0-0. Like I said, I've only seen what I've seen. I'll be going again to most of these grounds this season, and I might get a better sort of understanding of the grounds. But from what I've seen at Crystal Palace, I thought their atmosphere is incredibly overrated, and that ultra thing they've got going on. When it's not done right, it just looks embarrassing. So either do it properly or don't do it, because another team in this list do it properly, in my opinion. That's why I've got them much higher up than Crystal Palace. Moving on into 11th place, we have Tottenham Hotspur. We went here and drew 1-1 when they were completely under it. Obviously, they've been in a relegation battle all season, but this was before they all sort of got this. Do you remember when they all sort of switched on and went, you know what, we actually need to get behind this team. We need to stop being so against everything that's going on the pitch because we're in trouble here. We need to get behind them. This was sort of before that movement happened, so it's potentially the worst you probably will see of the Spurs atmosphere. In my opinion, it's the best stadium in the country. I can't see enough superlatives to describe how good the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is, but the atmosphere all around was nothing better than okay. They made a lot of noise when they did make noise, but that was very rare, and I've just got it on 11th. I think it's nothing better than okay. 10th, Chelsea. Again, the Big Six atmospheres was so disappointing for me, but at the same time, I did also kind of expect most of this to be the case. But with Chelsea, this was the best away game I've ever been to in my life. It was on 1-2-1. Went into second in the Premier League after beating Chelsea in the 96th minute. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. It really doesn't. The atmosphere was good. They scored early on and there was a bit of a bounce. But as we got into the game, equalised and stuff, there was just nothing from them. This was when sort of Maresca's football was at its most negative. The fans were starting to get a bit fuming again. Maybe I caught them on a bad day, but from everything that I saw from Chelsea, it's just sort of a run-of-the-mill average atmosphere. But again, that is just from what I've seen, so let's see. Moving on into 9th place, this is where the atmosphere is starting to get, I'd say, at least good's a stretch. Honestly, atmospheres in this country are all round pretty poor. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it really is. This is where they get decent enough where I'd say your atmosphere is good. Let's just say good. 9th, I've got Everton. Well, I only went to the game in the Cup. I was working on the one where we beat them in the league, which must have been an unbelievable day. I'm honestly gutted to have missed that. But I did manage to go to Hill Dickinson in the Cup where we won on penalties. And what I loved about Everton was there was a lot of pre-match build-up when you were in and around the ground. The Everton fans were so up for it. It was a very friendly game. Obviously, Everton and Sunderland do have a very good relationship. But I just love all the old-fashioned sort of Goodison chants and tunes that play through the speakers and stuff. It felt so traditional despite being in a brand new modern stadium. Just something about that I really loved, and the fans always joined in with them, and I just thought it was a really sort of fun atmosphere, but also being, I mean, I imagine that gets really intimidating in a big game. With it being the third round of the FA Cup, I probably didn't say it on its best day, but I still thought that it was a good atmosphere. And just above them, in 8th place, I do have their Mersey rivals in Liverpool. This is the one of two sort of Big Six atmospheres that I'd say were good, but it's still just really, really disappointing to me. Liverpool are meant to have one of the best atmospheres in the world. It's an absolute load of rubbish. I'm sorry, it really is. I've been to so many more grounds in the Championship and League One that had better atmospheres than Anfield, and I see that puffing me chest out. I mean that by every single word. These were incredibly loud when they got going. Probably one of the loudest in the country when they actually get going. But when they get going is so rare that I have to have it list though. They had the You'll Never Walk Alone chant at the start of the song. Great, mint, nothing pretty much for the rest of the half bar, maybe one chant. When that one chant got going, it really got round the whole ground. Everyone sang, which I really did like to see, which is why I assume it can be brilliant. But on an average game, it was just alright. Nothing better than that. Good at absolute most. Disappointing, but still better than the majority in the Premier League. Going up to 7th, I have Nottingham Forest. I'd say this is where we definitely get the good atmospheres. If you're in this sort of 7th upwards, you should be at least happy with the way your fans go on. Again, I loved walking along the river. Sort of the build-up of the game felt really good. I loved the concourse, even though it was pretty old-fashioned and stuff. Their pre-match song was brilliant. The atmosphere throughout most of the game was good. This was during when they were with Ange, which was obviously a really poor time. We won 1-0. This was our first away win with an Alderweireld goal. They were pushing us all game, trying to find an equaliser. equaliser, and I really did feel like the atmosphere built as they went on, and I do think it was all around a pretty good atmosphere. Now we're moving into the top 6. This is where it definitely starts to get good, without a shadow of a doubt. In 6th, I've got Coventry. Now, the reason I've got Coventry 6th is from what I saw when I went there in the playoff semi-final and we won 2-1 with a late Mienda winner, one of the very best away games I'll probably ever go on. It's going to be the very best of the best atmospheres that Coventry will have ever had. There's a little bit of a rivalry going on there between Sunderland and Coventry that they care more about than us, but that means the atmosphere was better when we were there, and they really did sing all game and made so much noise. Luckily, we're silenced it right at the very end, but it'll be interesting to see what it's like this season in a sort of more normal game. But the reason I haven't got it higher, despite seeing all them good things about the atmosphere, is I am aware that it is never that good. I've got mates who've been multiple times. I've seen other fans going and it can get really poor. They also had absolutely no fans about 6 years ago. It's all just a bit of a fad at the minute because of how well they're doing, but that does cause a good atmosphere. But I do understand that what I saw was the very best of Coventry, and I know that it isn't that good every single day. But 6th is still a very, very reputable position to be in this list, I promise you. Moving up to 5th, I've got Aston Villa. This is, again, in terms of games for the neutral, this is one of the best games I ever went to. So when we lost 4-3 this season, it could have been incredible if Diarra had just scored that chance. But again, similar to Coventry in the sense that I saw it on a really good day, but I also feel like it could have been a bit better. It was brilliant, all round brilliant, but I feel like it should have been better on the day, which is why it's not higher, because I went in Aston Villa expecting it to be top 1, top 2, top 3, and I think the reason that it isn't that is just from what I saw, but overall the atmosphere was good, especially pre-game, post-game as well, which is so important that people don't talk about. As away fans, when you're going into the stadium and leaving, you want to hear a buzz, and Aston Villa Park was one of them grounds where I really did experience that. That's why I've got them in 5th. 4th, we have the number 1 out of the big 6, and by number 1 out of the big 6, I mean by like a country mile as well. This was probably one of the best atmospheres I saw all of last season. Well, I've got a 4th for a reason. Arsenal are 4th in my list, and when I was talking about Palace's Ultras earlier and I was saying either do it properly or don't do it at all, I think Arsenal do it well. I think they do it well. I think them Ultras thing that they've got going on, it works. The drum, the wave the flags, the make noise, and it's not something that I like, but if it's going to make an atmosphere, why would they not? Why would they not? And honestly, I thought it was really good, albeit they beat us 3-0 again when we were doing really well and they were flying, so it will have been a good day to catch them on. It was a massive win for them. People were labelling the game as a bit of a banana skin, and they absolutely walked us. But the atmosphere, just everything about it, again, I can't stress enough, the post-match and pre-match atmospheres here were brilliant, which is exactly why I've got them this high, and I just really do think that Arsenal are the best out of the big 6. From what I've seen anyway, I'll have to see them again next season to get a proper opinion. 3rd place, I have Newcastle United. This is the one team that I'm ranking that I haven't been to. I just didn't have enough points to go to the derby last season. I will next season. But I'm obviously aware of what the Newcastle atmosphere is like growing up in Sunderland. So being right next to them all my life, knowing people who support the club, etc, etc. And they've obviously got one of the best atmospheres in the country. The North East is the best place for atmospheres and football fans in the entire country, without a shadow of a doubt. And that's me being positive about Newcastle, which I don't do very often, but I just think that is the way it is. And I think their atmospheres overall are very good, but I think recently it's starting to take a decline. I think with the fact that they've been doing so well recently, up until obviously last season when we beat them twice in that, their atmospheres have got worse with tourist fans coming in. But I also feel like when they do bad, they're very straight onto their team's back, which is not something that's really good. And another thing is that I do think a lot of their atmosphere is just for show. I think they put on these displays and they sing when they're on the telly and stuff just to look good. I just don't think it's genuine at all. And the Newcastle fans that I've spoke to who go to the games and stuff all say similar things, which is why I've put them here. But 3 is obviously still a brilliant place to be. Like I said, the North East should be the hub of football in this country, because this is where the proper fans are. 2nd place, I've got Leeds United. This is a ground that I've done twice now. Again, when it's Leeds Sunderland, it's always a good atmosphere, whether it's at the Stadium Light, whether it's at Ellen Road. Both atmospheres that I've experienced have been really good. The first game we lost 2-1 in a pretty dramatic fashion, with Pascal Strauch scoring a late goal, 2 late goals in fact. And the atmosphere after them goals is the best that I've seen as an away fan, without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion. However, the reason they're not number one is because there's a lot of quiet spells throughout the game, but I promise you, when Ellen Road is getting going, which is more than most teams that it's actually getting going in this list, it is so loud, and I've experienced it twice, and like I said, both times have been a brilliant atmosphere. It always feels like a really big game when I'm there, which is again another sort of metric for a really good atmosphere. Is it in the stands thinking, this is a proper game of football we're about to see now. That's why I've got Leeds second. I really do think highly of them. I think their atmosphere is brilliant, and it's probably one of the main reasons they stayed up last season is their home atmosphere. And number one, I mean, you might claim it's bias, etc., whatever. I'm not here to listen to it. If you want to count this as bias, then you can count Leeds as my number one pick. Number one, I do have Sunderland Stadium Light. I do. I mean, again, this is the atmosphere that I've experienced in most times. I've been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, having a season ticket for so many years. And at the minute, I don't think there's a better atmosphere in the country. I genuinely, hand on heart, believe that. And I was so critical of our atmosphere in the past few years when it's been poor, when there's been no noise in the Championship, etc. Sometimes it would be really poor. I'd always be the first to criticise it. But when it's at its best, which right now it's comfortably at its best, there is not a better ground in the country. There just isn't, and not from what I've experienced anyway, without a doubt for me. I think Wise Men see before the game is, again, incredible. It's always so loud. I think we are so reactionary to the game, which is something that I really rate highly, and that's why I'm not too keen on ultra atmospheres where it's all choreographed. I prefer true fan reaction, and I really think Sunderland fans do that the best. Anytime we're going forward, you hear the whole stadium rise, chairs smacking against the thing. We've got the sort of when people smack the walls when we score, constant chanting, everything about it. It is absolutely brilliant. We have had our rough times recently, but right now, there is not a better home atmosphere in the country than Sunderland FC Stadium Light. And again, if you think that's biased, then just count Leeds as my number one pick. It's up to you. But that is my atmospheres ranked in the Premier League. And again, I've actually been to these places. Like, if you think I've done you wrong, this is just from what I've experienced. The only bias I've got towards or against anyone is I've got towards Sunderland and against Newcastle, and I still had Newcastle third. So, and obviously I do have us first. You can argue with a wall. I really do think it's the best. And you've just got to look at how we were the longest team unbeaten at home in the whole Premier League. Over teams like Arsenal, teams like City. We stayed the longest unbeaten at home, and it's all because of our atmosphere. It obviously is. It was an absolute fortress this season, and it's going to be the same next year. It's absolutely brilliant. But let us know in the comments, please, what you disagree with. This is the first video on my channel. Obviously didn't do much of an introduction to the channel. If anyone's still here, what will you comment? Just comment 4 thumbs up in a row, and I'll give a comment, because if you stayed this long, I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm going to start to try and make longer videos on YouTube where I actually get to talk more and hopefully be less rage baity, because I feel like that's the way YouTube is. But yeah, that's my first video, ranking the atmospheres. Please let us know what you agree with and disagree with in the comments, and what you want to see. Give us some video suggestions, because this is the start of something that I'm going to be doing a lot. Cheers.